The luxury fashion boutique, located in the heart of the city, stood out with its dazzling lights reflecting off exquisite garments and priceless jewelry. The atmosphere inside was serene, like an exclusive world of its own, where affluent customers could freely admire and acquire high-end pieces. Every detail, every product exuded sophistication and opulence, sending a message that not everyone could afford to reach for such luxury. Elizabeth, a black woman with a confident demeanor, stepped into the boutique. She wore a simple yet elegant dress paired with sleek black high heels. She was searching for the perfect outfit for an upcoming gala, hoping to become the center of attention. However, she had no idea that a major challenge awaited her. The moment Elizabeth crossed the threshold, she caught the eye of Edward, the middle-aged store manager. He had grown up in an environment where deep-seated prejudices about social class and race still persisted. In his mind, only those with status and wealth deserved the finer things in life. Managing a luxury boutique frequented by the rich and powerful, Edward had long been accustomed to judging customers based on their outward appearance. Although he himself did not hold great power, he felt like part of an elite world that only the deserving could enter. Edward's gaze toward Elizabeth was filled with skepticism, as if questioning whether she belonged in such an upscale setting. His sense of superiority led him to make hasty judgments, disregarding factors beyond money such as resilience, human worth, and the respect every individual deserves. In the world Edward had constructed for himself, these biases were so deeply ingrained that he failed to recognize how unfairly he was treating another person simply because of racial and social differences. Though he attempted to maintain a professional demeanor, the underlying racial bias in his eyes was undeniable. "Excuse me, are you sure you can afford to shop here?" Edward asked, his tone polite yet laced with sarcasm. Elizabeth immediately recognized the contempt in his question. Before she could respond, he continued, "These things aren't for just anyone, especially not you." A heavy silence filled the boutique. Onlookers turned their heads, but no one dared to intervene. They simply watched, as if scenes like this were nothing out of the ordinary. At that moment, the front door swung open again, and a woman stepped inside. She was tall, with flowing golden hair, dressed in an elegant black gown. Every eye in the boutique turned to her, not just because of her beauty, but because of the power she carried. She was Melania Trump, the wife of former President Donald Trump. As Melania entered, the atmosphere in the store shifted instantly. People straightened up, sales associates rushed to greet her, and everyone recognized her not just as a strikingly beautiful woman, but as someone whose presence radiated undeniable authority. Edward stood frozen, his gaze locked onto Melania. Meanwhile, Elizabeth remained in place, her eyes filled with resentment, unable to look away from Edward. She couldn't comprehend why society drew such stark distinctions. Why was Melania welcomed with such warmth while she, without any justifiable reason, was met with contempt? With an air of grace, Melania approached Edward and offered a gentle yet commanding smile. "Hello, I'd like to see the latest collection," she said in a smooth, warm voice. Edward immediately snapped back into his professional demeanor. He stepped toward her, bowed slightly, and struggled to mask his unease. Yet he failed to realize that he stood between two powerful women, each commanding attention in her own way. One represented status and refinement, while the other embodied resilience and self-respect. Elizabeth remained silent, emotions surging within her. The stark contrast in Edward's behavior only fueled her growing anger, but she chose not to retaliate hastily. She understood that confrontation wasn't always solved with words, and that maintaining composure was the true display of strength. She decided to let Edward come to terms with his own prejudice. As she browsed the collection, Melania quickly noticed the stark difference in Edward's treatment of Elizabeth. She observed his cold gaze and lack of warmth toward her, as well as the quiet tension lingering on Elizabeth's face. Though she said nothing, her expression conveyed her discontent and disapproval. A hush fell over the boutique. Customers cast furtive glances, sensing that something was amiss, yet no one dared to speak. Melania, with her keen observation, quickly understood that Elizabeth was facing discrimination. She turned to look at Elizabeth for a moment, conveying her understanding. Without hesitation, Melania approached her with a warm smile and a gentle voice, introduced herself as Melania, and offered to help Elizabeth find some of the most beautiful works there. Elizabeth was surprised not only by Melania Trump's presence, but also by the way Melania treated her with sincerity and respect, without condescension or prejudice. Elizabeth responded that she was grateful but thought she could handle it herself, offering a gentle smile. Melania nodded gently, calmly affirming that if Elizabeth needed help, she would be there for her. Melania's words carried warmth and strength, demonstrating that no matter what challenges they faced, everyone deserved to be respected and treated fairly. At that moment, Edward realized something was wrong. He stared at the two women, his face pale, as he recognized that the situation was not unfolding as he had expected. He never thought that the woman he once despised would attract the attention of Melania Trump, one of the most influential women in the world. He stammered a greeting to Melania and assured her that they would provide her with the best service. Edward then turned to Elizabeth with an annoyed expression and offered an apology. But before he could finish his sentence, Elizabeth interrupted him, having heard enough of the apologies. At that moment, Melania turned back, moved closer to Elizabeth, her eyes never leaving Edward, and said in a calm yet cold tone that perhaps Edward needed to learn how to treat his customers. These words were like a slap in the face to Edward, leaving him speechless and unable to respond as all eyes in the store turned toward him, creating a tense silence. In the end, Melania looked at Elizabeth with eyes full of sympathy and apologized for the way Edward had treated her, affirming that no one deserves to be treated that way, and that we all have the right to be respected, no matter who we are. Melania's words felt like a powerful reassurance, making Elizabeth realize that she was no longer alone. A surge of warmth and determination rose within her. She never expected that a woman as influential as Melania would stand by her side, offering support at a moment when she felt most belittled and hurt. "Thank you," Elizabeth replied. After the tense confrontation with Edward, the atmosphere in the boutique grew heavy. People slowly returned to their tasks, but their glances occasionally flickered toward the three figures at the center of it all. Melania remained close to Elizabeth, a silent yet unmistakable show of support, something few would have expected from someone like her. Her empathy and solidarity gave the space a new meaning. Edward, still shaken, finally bowed his head and stepped back. Though he said nothing more, the defeat in his eyes was unmistakable. Meanwhile, Elizabeth felt as if a weight had been lifted off her shoulders. The contempt she had felt earlier no longer burdened her, though the sting of the insult had not completely faded. Melania noticed the subtle shift in Elizabeth's demeanor. Without another word, she gracefully moved toward the collections, pointing out a few pieces and discussing options for the upcoming gala. Elizabeth was taken aback by Melania's genuine attentiveness and creative suggestions, which made her feel far more confident. Never before had she felt this respected. "Sometimes we just need someone to help us see things from a different perspective," Melania said, her gaze still fixed on the luxurious gowns. "And I believe the right dress won't just make you the center of attention at the gala, it will help you feel more confident in yourself." Her words brought an unexpected sense of relief to Elizabeth, as if all her doubts about whether she belonged had suddenly vanished. For the first time that morning, she felt that she had the right to choose, to be respected, and to be treated with the same care as any other customer in this luxury boutique. "Thank you, truly," Elizabeth said, her voice soft yet filled with gratitude. "Because of you, I feel much more confident." Melania smiled, her gaze gentle yet powerful, as if she had helped Elizabeth recognize her own worth. "It's nothing, Elizabeth. We all deserve to be treated equally." After the conversation, Edward no longer dared to treat customers the way he had before. A deep sense of shame and embarrassment weighed on him as he realized that his mistake had not only been disrespecting Elizabeth, but also failing to recognize the value of every customer, regardless of where they came from or how they appeared. Regret welled up inside him as he acknowledged the harm he had caused to an innocent person. Edward then hesitantly approached Melania, his eyes downcast and his face unmistakably expressing regret. He apologized for his actions in a voice hoarse with remorse, insisting that he should not have treated her that way. Melania looked at him patiently, not rushing to respond. She told him that it was good that he recognized his mistake and emphasized that the important thing now was what he needed to learn from it and how to change. Edward hesitated for a moment before saying that he would do his best to ensure that no one ever felt unwelcome again. His voice carried a new determination, as if he had finally understood that respecting customers was not just a requirement, but a fundamental principle that everyone in the service industry needed to uphold. Melania nodded in agreement, emphasizing that this was how a true professional should act, and reminded Edward that every customer deserved respect. Her words were not merely advice, but a lesson one meant not just for Edward, but for everyone in the store. From that moment on, Edward began to change. No longer the arrogant manager, he became someone who listened and cared for each of his customers. He realized that his attitude could make a significant difference in their experiences. His relationship with customers, especially Elizabeth, improved noticeably, and over time the boutique transformed into a more welcoming space, one where everyone felt valued. As Elizabeth left the store with the perfect dress Melania had helped her choose, she felt like an entirely different person. It wasn't just about the new outfit, it was about a profound shift in how she saw herself. She no longer felt insecure. She knew she had broken through prejudice and discrimination. Meanwhile, Edward remained inside the boutique, reflecting on the invaluable lesson he had just learned. He knew that from this day forward he would treat every customer with the respect they deserved, no matter who they were. He no longer saw himself as a judge of worth, but as someone who served and supported customers in their most important moments. He understood that life wasn't always fair, but sometimes the smallest changes could make the biggest difference.